I don't even know if anyone will believe me when I tell you this, but maybe that doesn't matter anymore. Maybe I just need to get it out before it festers any deeper inside me. I've carried this weight for years now, this memory of what happened on that trip, and every night I wake up drenched in sweat, convinced I can still hear the whispers of the forest, convinced that I brought something back with me that never truly let go. It started as nothing more than an innocent getaway, just a group of friends trying to chase adventure and shake off the monotony of city life. I was 26 at the time, working a job I hated, waking up every morning to the hum of traffic and the glow of fluorescent lights. My buddy Eric was the one who came up with the idea. He was always the adventurous one, the kind of guy who couldn't sit still, always talking about hikes, caves, abandoned places. He said we needed to do something different, something real. He found this trail in the mountains, not far from where the Appalachians stretch wild and quiet. Not a marked trail you'd find in some state park brochure. No, this one he read about in some forgotten online forum, tucked away in a thread from a guy who claimed the place was for experienced trekkers only. That should have been a red flag, but we were young, restless, and maybe a little stupid. So it was me, Eric, his girlfriend Melissa, and my old roommate Chris. We packed light, maybe too light. A couple of tents, sleeping bags, some canned food, bottles of water, flashlights, and not much else. We left on a Friday afternoon, the drive taking us deeper and deeper into the kind of country where cell service dies and the radio only picks up static. I remember passing these little ghost towns, broken barns, houses with roofs sagging under years of neglect. It felt like the road was swallowing us. By the time we parked near the trailhead, the sun was dipping low, staining the sky in streaks of orange and blood red. There was no official sign, just this narrow dirt path slipping into a wall of trees. It felt wrong right away, like stepping into another world where you weren't entirely welcome. But none of us said anything. We walked in single file, Eric leading with that stupid grin he always wore when he thought he was in charge. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Not just the kind of quiet where you can hear your own footsteps, but the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, makes you realize how much you take the background hum of life for granted. No birds. No birds. No insects. Not even the rustle of leaves unless one of us disturbed them. It was like the forest itself was holding its breath. We hiked for maybe 3 hours before Eric said we'd camp for the night. We set up the tents in a small clearing, the air already turning colder than it should have been for late summer. I remember lying there trying to sleep, but the silence outside pressed in too heavily. And then, sometime past midnight, I heard it. Whistling. Soft. Far away. 3 long notes. Not a bird, not the wind. Something deliberate. I held my breath, thinking maybe I imagined it, but then it came again, closer this time. 3 long, slow notes carrying through the trees. I sat up, heart hammering in my chest, and glanced toward Chris's tent. His silhouette shifted. He heard it too. We whispered back and forth, neither of us daring to step outside. I wanted to wake Eric, but before I could, the whistling stopped. Just cut off, as if whoever or whatever was making it had melted back into the trees. The next morning, Eric brushed it off when we told him. Probably the wind, he said, or some hiker messing around. But I knew better. There hadn't been anyone else out there. We hadn't even passed another car for miles. We pushed deeper into the trail. The trees seemed taller the farther we went, the canopies swallowing most of the daylight until everything was cast in a permanent twilight. I started noticing strange things, carvings in the bark, symbols I didn't recognize. Circles, triangles, jagged marks like claw scratches, but too precise for any animal. Melissa asked Eric if he'd read about this before, but he just shrugged. Around midday, we stumbled onto a clearing with an old fire pit. Stones arranged in a perfect ring. There were charred pieces of wood, blackened long ago, and scattered bones. Small ones. Maybe animal, maybe not. None of us said it out loud, but the thought lingered heavy in the air. We should have turned back then. God, if only we had. That night, the whistling returned. Louder. Closer. It didn't come from one direction anymore. It came from all around us, weaving through the trees, circling our camp. Melissa started crying, clutching Eric's arm, begging him to pack up and leave, but he insisted it was just locals screwing with us. Locals. Out there, in the middle of nowhere? It made no sense. I barely slept, And when I did, my dreams were filled with shadows moving just beyond the reach of firelight. Faces half seen, pale and eyeless, watching us. The third day is when everything fell apart. We woke to find that one of our backpacks was gone. Not torn open, not dragged away by an animal. Gone, like someone had quietly walked into camp and carried it off. Inside had been half our food, one of the flashlights, and Eric's knife. Panic set in. Chris wanted to leave immediately, but Eric argued we'd come too far to turn back now. He said we'd just be retracing our steps, wasting time. If we keep moving forward, we'll reach the road on the other side in half the time. That was his logic. But there was no map, no guarantee that this so-called trail even connected to another road. Still, against my gut, we followed him. The forest grew stranger the deeper we went. Trees twisted in unnatural shapes, their roots knotted above ground like skeletal fingers. We found another clearing, this one with a crude wooden structure in the center. 3 poles lashed together into a triangle with something hanging from it. A deer skull, bleached white, smeared with what looked like dried blood. Melissa refused to go near it, muttering prayers under her breath. I can still see the way the sunlight hit the skull, casting shadows that seemed to move even when we stood still. By the time the sun began to sink again, we were all on edge. Chris kept looking over his shoulder, swearing he saw someone darting between the trees. Eric snapped at him, saying he was just paranoid, but even Eric's bravado was cracking. His voice trembled when he spoke, though he tried to hide it. We made camp again, but none of us wanted to sleep. We sat by the fire, waiting, listening. The forest gave us what we expected. The whistling came again, but this time it didn't stay distant. It walked into our camp. One moment it was in the trees, and the next it was right behind me, so close I swear I felt breath on my neck. 3 notes, slow, low, almost playful. I spun around, but there was nothing, just the firelight flickering over empty air. Melissa screamed then, pointing toward the darkness. I followed her finger and saw it, something standing between the trees. Tall, thin, its skin pale as bone, stretched tight over 2 long limbs, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, and though I couldn't make out eyes, I felt it staring straight at me. Eric grabbed a burning stick from the fire and hurled it toward the thing. For a second, the flames lit it up, and I swear to God it smiled. A mouth too wide, teeth too many. And then it was gone, swallowed by the dark. We didn't sleep at all. When morning came, Melissa was gone. Her tent was empty, her belongings untouched, like she'd simply stepped out in the night and never returned. Eric lost it, running through the trees, shouting her name until his voice broke. Chris and I followed, but the woods seemed endless, every tree identical, every direction wrong. We never found her. I can't keep going right now, but I will. There's more, so much more, and it only gets worse. Melissa was gone. Her tent was still there, her bag, her jacket, her boots, everything. It didn't make sense. No footprints around the camp, no broken branches, no trail in the dirt, just absence, as if the forest had swallowed her whole without leaving a trace. Eric lost his mind. He tore through the clearing, calling her name again and again, running so deep into that Chris and I nearly lost him. He kept shouting until his throat cracked, and when he finally stumbled back, his face was pale, hollow. I'd never seen him look like that before, not even during the worst nights of college benders or fights with his dad. It wasn't just fear, it was something deeper, like a man realizing, maybe for the first time in his life, that he wasn't in control of anything anymore. We argued about what to do. Chris wanted to retrace our path back toward the car, even if it took days. Eric said Melissa might still be ahead, that if she was taken, maybe we could catch up. Taken by who? Chris demanded, his voice cracking. None of us had an answer. But I saw something in Eric's eyes then, a flicker of guilt. Maybe he thought this was his fault, dragging us out here with no real plan, chasing some rumor of a trail that probably wasn't meant for people like us. Maybe he thought Melissa's disappearance was punishment, and if he turned back now, it would mean giving up on her completely. We followed him deeper. God help me, I don't know why. The forest changed as we moved. The trees grew denser, their trunks warped, leaning in like they were listening. The ground sloped downward into gullies that reeked of stagnant water, moss clinging to everything, turning the soil slick beneath our boots. I kept expecting to hear birds, insects, something, but the silence was absolute. Every step we took felt like a trespass. Around midday, we came across something I'll never forget. A tree, thicker than any we'd seen before, split open by age or lightning. Inside the hollow, hanging from the wood, were strips of cloth, dozens of them, torn shirts, fragments of jackets, even what looked like a child's dress, all rotting, stiff with mud and something darker. Beneath them were bones, not animal bones, not unless deer wore sneakers. Chris vomited right there, clutching his knees. Eric just stared, eyes wide, jaw trembling. I think in that moment he finally believed we were in something much bigger than ourselves, something we couldn't fight or understand. That night, the forest gave us no mercy. The whistling came again, circling closer and closer until it was all around us. We didn't even bother with the fire this time. It felt like lighting a beacon for whatever hunted us. We huddled in the dark, flashlights clutched in white-knuckled fists, every snapping twig making us flinch. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under, and I dreamed, or thought I dreamed, Melissa standing at the edge of the clearing. Her face was wrong, stretched, her mouth too wide, but her eyes were hers. She whispered my name over and over, her voice fractured like it was coming through broken glass. I woke up with tears on my face, certain she'd been there, certain she'd been watching us. By morning, Eric wanted to keep pushing forward, still clinging to the desperate hope that Melissa might somehow be alive. Chris and I begged him to turn back. After hours of tense arguments and raw fear gnawing at our nerves, Eric finally broke down and agreed. We turned around. The forest didn't let us go easily. Every step back felt heavier, like the trees were closing in, like the ground itself was pulling at our boots. The whistling followed us, sometimes close, sometimes far, always just enough to keep our hearts racing. We stopped making campfires, stopped talking much at all, saving our energy for the endless walk. At night, shadows danced outside our tents, and sometimes we saw her, Melissa, just standing there, silent. Eric tried once. He ran toward her, swore he heard her calling his name. But when we dragged him back, there was nothing in the clearing but the sound of laughter, soft and cruel, weaving through the trees. It took us 3 more days to find the road. By then we were half-starved, delirious, and hollowed out by fear. When that same old farmer picked us up, we must have looked like ghosts ourselves. He didn't ask questions, just drove us to the nearest town. The cops searched, of course. They combed the woods for weeks, but they found nothing. No tents, no supplies, no bones. It was like we'd never been there at all. Sometimes I wonder if that's the cruelest part. Not the memories, not the loss, but the silence. The way the forest erased every trace of us, swallowed Melissa whole, and left the rest of us to carry the story like a curse. It's been years now. We don't talk about it much, not even when the 3 of us get together. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it again. The whistling. 3 notes, slow and deliberate, echoing from somewhere just out of sight. And when I hear it, I know it's not finished with us.